I think we're good to go. We're just after p:30. Hi everybody, I'm Laura Gage from the North East Automotive Alliance, and thank you for joining us today at our Horizon Europe funding webinar. I'm delighted to be joined by two guest speakers today who are going to take you through the session. We've got Louise Mothersole, who's the Horizon Europe UK National Contact Point for Mobility from Innovate UK. Very long-winded title there, Louise. So she's going to take you through some of the Horizon, a bit more about Horizon Europe and some of the funding calls and how you can get involved in that. And then we've got FI Group, who are an NEAA member, and we have Fawzi Abu Shaheen. I hope I've pronounced that correctly, who is the grant funding director. And he's going to talk to you a little bit more about the practical side of it, a bit about what FI Group and how they can help your business, but also around the finding, securing and claiming funding. And of course, we've left plenty of time at the end for some Q&A. So if you have any burning questions you want to ask, obviously we've got the specialist here to help you. You can do that either through using the chat function if you're a little bit shy, or of course we'll open it up for any verbal discussions as well. So we'll do that towards the end. So I'm going to hand straight over to you, Louise, if you want to share your screen and take it from there.
Thanks, Laura. Yeah, good morning, everybody. It is still morning. It feels like it's been a long morning already. So yes, my email address is right there. I'd like you to all take a screenshot or write it down because I'd like to hear from everybody. You'll see there that I have this long job title, as Laura just said, Horizon Europe UK National Contact Point for Mobility. I'll start off by explaining what that means. Okay, so I am a national contact point. I'm one of them. I'm a public servant, civil servant. So you've paid for me in your taxes already. Thank you very much. I'm covering the transport sector, so mobility. So that's rail, aerospace, maritime, automotive. I've been a national contact point for about 10 years, just in the transport sector. So I'm reasonably familiar with this by now. And my job is to help you access Horizon Europe funding. So I'll do things like raise awareness of the programme, like this webinar today. I'll help you find the right competition for you. A competition is called a topic in EU speak. I'll help you find those consortium partners that are essential for most of these, and how to work your way around the funding portal, which is like the IFS, but it's for Europe. So I'll do all those things that I can to help you be successful. I'm one of a team in the UK. I cover the transport sector. There's one of me covers energy, food and farming and fishing, the manufacturing sector. So if you're interested in new manufacturing processes, I can introduce you to my colleague, Ange, who is a bit more familiar with all of the digital programs and the manufacturing, the materials programs. I focus exclusively on the transport program. I'm not the only one that does transport, though. There's one of me in every other country you can think of, not just in Europe, but internationally, because Horizon Europe is an international program. It's got that word Europe in it, but it's open to everybody else as well. So I work very closely with my Italian, French, German counterparts, my New Zealand, my Canadian counterpart, a chap called Ian White. He's coming to visit the UK later this year. So I can introduce you to those international partners through my international connections as well. So that's what I do as a job, but what that assumes you know what Horizon Europe is. So just to remind you, for those that don't know, it's the largest research and innovation programme in the world. Over £80,000 million to be spent in the 7 years from 2021 to 2027. And when I say spent, I just mean the competitions start off in those years. The programme itself, the projects, if they don't start until 2027 or 2028, some of them, and it'll be a 3-year programme. So some of these things will still be, the projects won't complete until 2030. But we've got 3 main parts of Horizon Europe. The far left is the academic sector primarily, so that's the excellent science. I'm not really going to talk much about that at all. The far right is the innovative Europe, and it's primarily around the entrepreneurial sector. There might be some scope for some of you here who want to know a little bit more about what's going on in there. But I suggest you contact me separately offline and we can go through what's in Pillar 3, because I'm really going to focus on Pillar 2, because Pillar 2 has the main challenges and it's about the collaboration together internationally to solve those challenges. So why on earth is the UK government giving Europe our taxpayers' money so that we can do this? And that's because the bottom line is it creates jobs, growth and stronger supply chains if you can work with your international partners to develop solutions that you know are going to work in their markets. You know that we've not gone down the Betamax route when everybody else has adopted VHS. Younger members of the audience need to go and Google video format wars if you don't know what that means. Some of us remember. But basically, you know, the UK does not want to be isolated and going off and doing something on its own. We want to be part of the mainstream, the direction that the technology is developing. We want to be influencing that direction, not just catching up from the outside, but being part of the inside and shaping the direction, the legislation, the standards, the regulations, and the future solutions. So I mentioned we're going to focus on this Pillar 2. This Pillar 2, I've swapped from pounds to euros now because it is a European funded programme. So we're going to stick with looking at euros. And within this Pillar 2, we're solving these global challenges and maintaining industrial competitiveness for Europe. We're Europe. It actually means anybody who aligns with these European values. So it's primarily about making sure that the UK and Europe stays ahead of the Far East, the rise of China and India, for example. Although they're not excluded from being part of this, this is really about ensuring that our industries keep pace, if not maintain the lead. So you can see we've got a number of clusters. I mentioned earlier that there was industrial work going on in Cluster 4, but in Cluster 5 is where we have the energy programme and the mobility being me. So all this amount of money excludes the money that the UK government is giving in to this programme. So it's actually much bigger than this. But I'm going to focus primarily on this mobility bit today. The big news is UK has associated to Horizon Europe. That's the phrase. What does that mean? That means that we've joined the club. The UK government is giving the EU the money. It's not hit the headlines of the newspapers in the same way that it's been like headlined as we're now joining the research community. But actually, we paid our membership fee as well. And because we paid our membership fee, this means that anybody from the UK can be a project leader, and anybody from the UK who is part of an EU project will be funded by the EU. So, and some of these funding rates are really smart. They're really clever. You get 100% funding for a lot of this. And you also get the funding up front. You get a significant portion of the funding as you start the project. And then as you go through the project, you draw down more. So another thing from an associate country, because the UK is associate, we do count as one of the minimum number required in a consortium. There's nearly always at least 3 different legal entities from 3 different countries, and so the UK does count as that. We also, of course, do have official government representation on the direction setting bodies, so we're not just passively taking here. We actually do influence the next generation of competitions, so we're already part of the programme committees. We've already seen the draft of what they're looking for 2025, and just on Friday we submitted our comprehensive review of what we thought of their draft for next year. So we do have that say as well. We're not just passively accepting it all. So I mentioned this just to quickly refresh here. So far, the EU has given out over €2 billion for transport projects, and that's in the first 3 years. Just shows you the scale of the amount of funding that is available for transport projects. So that's just transport, €2 billion. Over half of those projects have already got UK partners. In fact, if you have a UK partner in a consortium, you have a 1 in 3 chance of success. If you don't have a UK partner in a consortium, you have a 1 in 4 chance of success. So actually, what's one of the messages I send to my European counterparts is, you know, having UK partners in the consortium improves the hit rate, the win rate. And so that's a strong message we can keep pressing and getting out there. So just a little bit more about what's within this climate, energy and mobility. You can actually look at recordings at the European Commission. They've got their own webcast here. You can see what they say about the competitions as well. The work programme is where all of the competitions are published. So there's a link there. It's a big document, 540 pages, but half of it's gone already because it was the 23 and 24 work programme. And actually on the later slides, I'm not going to have time to show you all my slides, but the later slides, which you will get a copy of, have got links to the right page numbers for you as well, for your part of the competition. So we've got these things called destinations because this climate, energy and mobility is still 15 billions. So we've still got to pare it down to try and find where's your million. You know, this is 15,000 millions in here. Some of it, you know, 500,000 or 1 million in there has your name on it, and we have to find it. And that's one of my jobs, is to help you identify which competition is the right one for you. So the Commission have split Cluster 5 into these destinations, and the bottom 2 destinations particularly are around transport. So clean and competitive solutions is destination 5, and they call them destinations because it's something they're trying to achieve or somewhere they're trying to get to. They could have called it sectors or themes. They've gone for the word destination. So I'm very sorry if anybody really, their eyes are lighting up at the thought of this clean and competitive solutions, because that competition for this year has now closed. However, the competition for this part of the programme, the safe, resilient transport and smart mobility services for passengers and goods, has only just opened this month, and the submission date is in September. Got a little bit more information. Oh yes, sorry, that's as animated as my slides animations ever get. Just to help you understand the structure. So we've got Horizon Europe, and there are pillars, and there are clusters, and there are destinations. Within the destination is a call for proposals, and within the call for proposals will be a number of topics. Topic is competition. That's where the competition is at. So a topic has a budget, a topic has a scope and a set of deliverables, and people write a proposal against a topic and they compete with each other for the budget for that topic. Every topic has an identifier, a code, and it can feel a bit, you know, bunch of numbers, bunch of letters. But actually, if you read it backwards, this is looking at the bottom bullet here, reading backwards, this one was the first topic in the first call for proposals in Destination 5, Cluster 5 in 2024 in Horizon. So it actually makes sense. And it just, once you get that postcode understood, it helps you navigate and understand where you'll fit. Because, you know, we have to come down to this topic level to get down to the, well, here's 10 million's worth of competition. Because all these other levels, they're just too big a number to actually work at that level. Quick talk about funding rates. I mentioned a lot of it is 100% funding. That's for the low technology readiness level projects for everybody. So you can be big business, you can be Nissan, you can still get 100% funding for the low technology readiness levels. And these are stated by the Commission. So they will say that this project is an RIA. This competition is an RIA, Research and Innovation Action. And everybody gets 100% and another 25% for your indirect costs for a low technology readiness level project. The innovation action ones, so we've lost the word research now, they're typically a bit higher, and I say low-ish and higher because we're talking for the low-ish about TRL 3 to 5 and the higher TRL about 6 to 8, but it's not fixed. You know, they vary topic by topic. So anybody who's a not-for-profit, so you can be a local authority, you can be a university, you can be a charity, anybody who's a not-for-profit will still get 100% for these higher TRLs. Anybody who's a for-profit, it's usually 70%, but some go down to only 60%. It's worth looking at the topic text, it will tell you. And then we've got some things called coordination support actions, which are not about developing the technology themselves. They're really about doing that supporting stuff. So they might be doing things like regulation and standards reviews. They might be pulling together what are all the different national programmes and can we share lessons learned from those. So those again are 100% funded. So this is the call for proposals in Destination 6. It's got 13 different topics. So 13 different competitions covering areas such as cooperative automated mobility, infrastructure, logistics, multimodal transport, safety and resilience, etc. And you can see I've given you the page numbers. If that 540-page document, page 479 to 511, and when you get the slides, you can click on the link and it will take you there. Throughout this rest of the slide deck, I'm not going to show you anymore except to show I've got these other slides, and each of these actually has a link to the specific topic. So you'll get these, but I don't really have time to go through each of these. So things like mobility management plans and behaviour change, you can click on these as you go. But this is my last slide. What I'd like you to do is have a look, take a screenshot of that. I might stick it in the chat as well, that bottom newsletter subscription. And that way you get to hear from me things like we have a pump priming scheme which funds £6,000 free grant to small businesses to help them prepare for Horizon Europe. So this is for small businesses to do things like attend European conferences, to do the networking, to build the consortium. So this is called pump priming. We do travel grants for small businesses to attend events as well. So sign up with my newsletter and you'll get more information on those as well. But I'll stop sharing now and give the floor to somebody else. Thanks.
Excellent, thank you. Thanks, Louise. That was really useful. And as Louise said as well, we will share the slides with all the links, so you can access those direct topics. I think I've got that right, topics. So now I'll hand over to Fawzi, if you want to share your screen and take us in the next part of the session.
Hopefully that's all live.
Brilliant, yeah, thanks.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. So my name is Fawzi Shaheen. I am the UK Grants Director at FI Group. So what is FI Group? Briefly. So we're a global consultancy securing funding for companies who are seeking to grow, develop new products, and Horizon funding is a good way to get capital investment from governments to achieve that aim. So as a consultancy, we operate globally and primarily advise on how to get access to that government funding. There's so much available broadly, things like R&D tax credits, grant funding, debt financing, all of these things that help you manage your cash flow. So today I'll be focusing around grants, and I'll explain how that works in addition to what Louise has mentioned. Me personally, I've been working in the delivery of research projects and also the funding of them for the past 10 years. I now oversee all the UK applications that my team do. So why don't I sort of kick us off with telling you what I think a grant application is. What is a grant? Really simply, it is a subsidy from government to help you achieve a particular aim. And a lot of what we're going to talk about today is around innovation grants. So that's supporting new product development, whether it's cutting edge research or even the commercialization of prototypes. But do be aware that there are other sources of grants, such as capital expenditure grants, which are more for building new buildings, buying assets, large scale operations, that sort of thing. So just for you to be aware. And I think having looked at the attendees, there's a couple of people who've won Horizon. Sorry, one attendee who's won Horizon, and a couple have won national level funding. So I thought I'd touch on what the difference between national and European level funding is. So I've got some stats which I think are quite interesting. So A lot of you will have heard of Innovate UK. That is the UK's primary national funding body for innovation. There are others, but keeping it simple, this is where the main source of money comes in for funding UK specifically activity. And then Horizon is that larger international player. A good quick comparison would be something like Premier League versus World Cup. So a step change in competition, a step change in level of funding and the projects that get submitted. In terms of the funding pots available, take these numbers with a pinch of salt, because sometimes the sources of information are hard to get hold of, and how people report them, etc. But generally, you're looking at a 2-to-1 scale of funding between, say, Horizon and Innovate UK. Much bigger projects are funded in Horizon because there's so many people, such larger projects, and a slightly higher level of funding per SME. A lot of universities get access to Horizon funding as well. That should be mentioned, and I think we've got some universities attending today. I was quite surprised to see that the success rate is generally similar. I would have thought that Horizon would be slightly harder, but I think what happens here is because the level of performance is so high, actually you get a slightly higher success rate occurring. So that's worth noting. I'll give you some advice on how you can improve that success rate as well, such as partnering with people. I think Louise mentioned a really good tidbit there about including your UK applicants. That's certainly a good one to mention. But I think the core thing, if you're new to Horizon, and even if you're new to national level funding, is the time it takes. Writing a proposal can take a very long time because you're meeting your project partners. If you're collaborating, you are coming up with a business case, refining it, sense checking it. So it can take up to sort of 8 to 10 weeks to submit a Horizon application. I won't dwell on the stats, but I think of the attendees we have, I think there are 8 Innovate UK winners, and only one of those won Horizon. And that's, I think, gives you a sense of scale of how much harder it is to win Horizon. So if you've won Horizon, you probably have a 50% chance of winning Innovate UK. But if the other way around, you have about a 6% chance of winning Horizon, based on the 90 or so companies who win both every year. There was a couple of years where we didn't get involved in the UK, so that skews the data a bit. But that's a little bit of a high level for you. So thankfully, Louise explained the breakdown of clusters, pillars, clusters, destinations. So I won't go into that, but I will talk about how to identify which of the numerous competitions available or topics are for you. So which ones are for you? I think there are 3 that I'd pull out. So Cluster 5, Louise mentioned. This talks about there's opportunities around climate, energy, and mobility. I think in terms of all the NEAA members, mobility would have been the focus, but also there's some overlap with energy. I think we've got, say, a battery manufacturer, so there's clear overlaps there. There are, I think, about 200 topics, competitions, call them what you will, within those many destinations. So it can be quite tricky to find out which one aligns with you, and the nature of those competition names will be something quite specific. So circular economy approaches for net zero vehicles, so very, very specific. And when you come to that, you want to make sure that you are aligned with it, your idea is aligned with it, and also your partners are aligned with that. And that could be a very iterative process. There may be the nature of Horizon Europe is that it wants to support cross-sectorial, cross-organization, and cross-country impact. So cross-organization will be more than just businesses, public bodies, charities, perhaps even trade unions. So all sorts of actors involved. So that's one thing to bear in mind. So if you were to pitch into that topic, for example, you might have, say, different members of the supply chain within that, say, net zero vehicle production. So materials processor, manufacturer, quality assurance, some third body, a university, maybe an end-of-life manager, and even a project manager, a company that doesn't have necessary technical expertise, but is really good at project managing. So that's how you would start to formulate that. I think, as Louise mentioned, cluster 5 is probably one you would likely lean to, but be aware that other clusters are available. So cluster 4 has digital and space, which probably won't align with you, but the industry destinations may have some alignment in terms of the manufacturing. I think there's digitalization, robotics, and things like that. So that's the pillar 2 side of things. And like Louise, I mentioned European Innovation Council, so you're aware of it. EIC, this is less for large consortia, which is what those clusters are all about, but really therefore SMEs who want to go it alone. You can collaborate, I should mention, but this is the EIC is really good for, say, a 2.5 to 3.5 million euro project at any stage of the technology development cycle. I think that sort of middle stage is what I see tends to be really well received, and they can have open competitions as well as those targeted challenges that they're looking for. So it depends on what you're trying to do, where your head is in terms of the project that you want to fund. So there is that iterative cycle. So let's say you've identified a competition that you want to apply for. So how do you actually go about doing it? I'd say my 3 key steps would be: check you're eligible. Are you meeting the project scope? If you need to have a consortium, is the composition right? Is that telling the right story? Is it a cohesive consortium, for example, rather than just one cobbled together? We see that a lot, especially when they've towards the end of the deadline. Give yourself lots of time. Having had a business case idea, how do you start to develop that proposal? Is it really robust? You'll be marked on things like scientific excellence, how you implement the delivery, and the impact that you're achieving. And then the third thing is just revise that. Do you need to add a partner? Do you need to remove a partner? Change the budget? Ask for more money, perhaps? Partners for those kind of cluster calls can sometimes be 10 to 20, so it can be very big, and I think so just bear that in mind. The image on the right is more just a visual for you to see the kind of thing that I do when I'm assessing eligibility for the clients I work with. So here I've presented a risk profile for a client of mine, and broadly speaking, they understand the commercialization opportunity. They understand who would buy their innovation as they develop it. They broadly know how to resource the team and the equipment to deliver it, but I think their argument on the impact it would deliver was quite weak, and so I focused on that side of the business case. And going back to what Louise said at the start, what's the point of all this? Well, the EU wants to fund activity that is going to generate impact. That is commercial impact for the businesses themselves, but also the member states, the world. It could be positive regulatory change that comes out of it, social impact, as well as economic impact. So you'll need to be thinking about all those things. And of course, general do's and don'ts to secure the funding. Make sure you've got lots of time. Be really clear on the responsibilities between the consortium, who is going to be doing the submission, who is the lead project manager and all this. Are your costs that you're claiming the right? And top tip I would say is write with one voice. When you've got lots of people cobbling in things together, sometimes it helps to make it more coherent by having one voice. That's just something I've seen over the years. These are example questions that the funders like to ask within those applications. I'll go clockwise, and I'll touch on just some of them. So for any funder, regardless of whether it's Horizon Europe, Innovate UK, a bank loan, venture capitalist, they all want to understand, what is it that you're trying to achieve? What problem are you solving? How does it align with your business strategy, with the funder strategy? And what is the solution that you're trying to implement? Those are standard questions that you always get asked about. If it's an open call, the problem will be open to you to define. If it's a cluster 5 topic, for example, a very, very clear problem or topic that you need to talk about. They really want to understand how you're going to commercialize the development, such a big focus, and how will you deliver impact. And they also want to understand the value to the funder. Why is it in the EU's interest to give taxpayer money at the end of the day to do this project? Why are you asking for only 2 million when 3 million would have helped you achieve what you want to achieve? Or conversely, you're asking for 3 million when actually you could probably achieve it with 2.5. So that's the value for money argument that you need to consider. But I think generally this is fairly straightforward. I'm conscious of time, so I won't dwell on this, but I know some of you will be interested to understand the timeline, and this is a snapshot of what happens if you are successful. So you will be notified that you're successful, and then negotiations will start with the EU and also your consortium partners. Once a grant has been agreed, you can kickstart the project. You can also ask for a grant advance payment. As Louise said, these can be very generous. I think up to 50%, 25% to 50%, depending on what it specifically is, when in the budget cycle as well. And then you'll have periodic reporting to do and subsequent payments. And I think they tend to reserve a small amount, say 10%, 15% of the overall grant towards the end to make sure that you are delivering. And you will, particularly for large grant recipients, need to provide that independent audit, as they call it. But that's the sort of general timeline, and that can span many, many years. So to bring that all together, a lot of information. I would say that my take home for applying for Horizon funding would be check your project meets scope. You'd be surprised by how many people miss out the core element because they want to push their technology. When it comes to Horizon, you've got to identify the competition you want to apply for and then create the project with your partners. Check your consortium. Do you have enough people? Are they the right people? Are they asking for the right amount of money at the right subsidy rate? Are you writing with one voice so it's coherent? And also do ask for feedback from each other internally. It can be very critical to hear, actually, you could change this, improve that, but you want to get that before you do the submission. And even when you submit and you get that feedback, you can always reapply with something slightly similar. And do stay positive because it's a very long process. So I think that would be my take home. And of course, now is a good time to ask any questions, but you can also reach out after this if you have any ideas you want to sense check as well. So that's all for me. And these are my my details if you want to connect. Thank you.
Excellent.
I'll stop sharing.
Thank you very much. And obviously we'll share your details after as well. So does anybody have any questions, either post in through the chat or raise a hand and ask away, whether it's anything to do with the calls themselves or any support around consortia building or actually around the actual process itself. I think Louise has dropped a few things in the chat as well to help.
Yes, I put a link in there to things like the pump priming and the current transport related competitions in Cluster 5, and there was a few in the mission, the city's mission, that look might be interesting as well to this sort of group.
Thank you. Oops.
I just wanted to mention I am Sohail Hajadis from CPI, and just wanted to mention that we work a couple of times with the FI group submitting Horizon projects, and it was very good, collaborations, and thank you very much for the company working with us.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sahil. Thank you for that feedback.
Thank you. Any more questions?
Well, while people are thinking about question, just touching on what you said, Sahil, about consortia building. My tip for those who are new to this would be to start to network with the kind of businesses or organizations who do secure funding, whether it's Horizon or even Innovate UK, to get a sense of the pace, get that sort of friendly exposure to experience, and that's how I would do it rather than deep dive. I don't think you're likely to be successful just if you're applying for Horizon for your first time and you've not even sort of seen the application process. I hope it does happen, but national contact points are really, really helpful, like Louise. And when you speak to people like Louise, do focus on pitching a sort of concise business case to help them understand what is it you're trying to achieve, and then they can better help you, whether it's connecting you to people or give you information that you didn't know.
Yeah, I'm quite fond of saying, the European Commission publishes everything you'd ever want to know. Finding it can be a challenge. So those of us who work with the system day in, day out have got the important things bookmarked or have a better understanding of how to find them. I would say for partner, I mean, the biggest issue for most people who have not done Horizon Europe before is, as Fawzi said, it's that consortium building. If you've not done Horizon Europe before, don't attempt to be the leader, the coordinator. What you should be doing instead is finding a consortium that's got a U-shaped jigsaw piece missing from it that you fit into nicely. So there are lots of systems that we can see who's already doing projects. People who have won them in the past tend to be more successful at winning them next time. They've got a track record, they've done it before. So those are the sorts of people we'd recommend you talk to, and your own networks. You will be surprised how many people who do know people that do Horizon Europe. Universities, the UK university is the most successful sector across all of Horizon Europe, even post-Brexit. Most organisations will know people in the universities, ask them what they're doing.
Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah, and also sometimes that the universities or the catapults such as CPI that they have worked with other partners across Europe. Sometimes they know other partners that they can introduce to the consortium, and they are high profile. With the right capabilities that they can really increase the chances of the consortium.
Yeah, I think we've got a question in from Steve Morris.
Good afternoon all. Steve Morris from Certec here. Just a question to Louise. You mentioned about joining the best group that might be suited to yourself if you've not done it before. Is there? I'm quite new to this, so please don't laugh at me. But is there a list of people that you could go and speak to, or consortiums that you could join, or at least apply to, with ideas that you might have, where we might not have a specific thing where we might be able to offer something, but in terms of our innovation and what we want to try and do in terms of getting into that sort of field, we might have some great opportunities for being able to support somebody. We might have
exactly that.
People.
Exactly that. I'm going to share my screen and show you, and then I'll put a link in the chat to there's a system called Cordis. Now, Cordis, let me just write it up on there. Cordis. Cordis is every project that's ever been funded by the EU. And the link I'll put in the chat has already got a couple of filters attached. So we've got projects and just Horizon Europe. So one of the type, for example, a topic at the moment, a set of topics is on CCAM, which is Connected Cooperative Automated Mobility. If I type that as a keyword into this keyword search box, and I could have, if I was in the maritime sector, I'd do, say, green shipping or something, but I was going to do CCAM as an example, and I hit return. It now brings up a list of 39 ongoing projects. Now, you can't join these projects. It's very rare that you can enjoy these projects, but what we can do is if we clicked on one of these, it would tell us a little bit more about that project. Just wait for the whirligig to catch up with itself. So this is called Safety Assurance Framework for Connected Automated Mobility Systems, and we can see here some information about the project. We can also see this was quite a big project, €13.5 million, coordinated by NEAA in Spain. You think, okay, so what? We scroll down a bit more. It shows us who else was doing this project. Oh, look, we've got University of Warwick. That's Warwick Manufacturing Group. So if you know anybody there, tap them on the shoulder, ask them about it. As we scroll down a little bit more, we can see on this NEAA, the coordinator means leader. So they're the people that have pulled the consortium together. They submitted the project proposal and they're now managing the project. You can see that there is a button here, contact the organisation. If I click on that, it will make me log in. So you can create yourself a login on this top right here. But any moment now it'll come up with, it's taking a bit longer because I'm doing these shared. But any moment now it will come into, type my son's birthday into there. A bit of I can't remember that. Embarrassing when I don't. And now it comes up with, when it's gone through a few iterations and tells me that they're going to do two-factor authentication soon. So now we've got a little text box, and this goes to Dear Participant Contact. In this case, it's the leader, of course, of NEAA Automotive in that project. So this is the person leading that project at NEAA. And you can write, hello, I see you. Well, you can write whatever you want in here. You can put in, I see what you're doing in Project Sunrise. Are you interested in collaborating in this next competition? People who have already got a competition under their belts rarely say they're not interested in more money. They are usually quite happy to be working on their next proposal, or they will have colleagues who do. So you could actually have a set of paragraphs ready to go here. You click the box to prove you're human, and they will then get this message and they will get your email address to reply to. So this way, you know that these people have a track record of winning. They're not just people interested in doing a project. They've won this project. They know how to win a project. If I go back, and so this is one way, and that was just one project. There's another one. There's another one. These are just the 36, for CCAM. I could do zero emission vehicles if that was my thing. Oh, and there's 3 results for that. So you can type in, green shipping. It'll look for the 2 words, and we've come up with 44 results. So this was one way of finding people with us. They've already won projects, so they know how to do it.
Fantastic,
that helped.
Thank you. Yeah, fantastic.
And touching on what you also said, Steve, I mean, when you speak to people like Louise or myself, no idea is a bad idea, and we naturally assume that people didn't have knowledge about these, so it's always good to ask.
Yeah, I'll stick a link to Cordis in the chat so that anybody, it's useful because you would always need to usually reference the fact that you've checked that there are no other projects in your field that are doing this, so you need to be able to show either you're building on a project that's already gone on, or that there's no other projects that are relevant and that sort of thing. So yeah, so the full set before me doing keywords is 12,600 projects. So you just need to make sure you use the right keywords to pull up projects that are in an area that is of interest to you.
I think there was also a couple of people who are financial controllers or work in the finance department from the attendee list. So you may be interested to know how the funding and financing portion of it works. So not all of the project costs are covered. You tend to need to have a portion match funded. So you need to just bear in mind that have some money available, and part of the audit and sense checks, financial due diligence after you win is to make sure that you have the means to deliver the project.
Excellent. Any more questions from anybody? No. Well, a massive thank you to you both. we will have this recording, so of course we can share it with attendees, and please pass it out to any other colleagues or other companies you know who you think would be interested. We will share details of Louise and Fawzi with you on a follow-up email as well, and any slides that we can share as well. And hopefully you found it really useful. Thank you again.
Well, I did,
you.
and I'd like, Steve and anybody else who wants to have a little bit of a one-to-one help on how to find partners, what associations and organisations they might want to engage with. And Steve, if you're from an SME, how can you apply for the pump priming to actually get 6,000 to help you do that networking? Because that's it's only £6,000, but it's just for SMEs to help them do the preparation for Horizon Europe. So it's worth thinking about if anybody's from an SME here as well.
And
Well, thank
likewise,
you on that, Louise. Thank you.
yeah, and likewise, Steve, if there's a couple of projects that you had in mind and you wanted to sense check them, and this is open to everyone else as well, I'm happy to direct you to sources of funding, whether that's Horizon, Innovate UK, or alternative ones. That's what I do for the day job. Perfect.
Thanks for that. You go around the shows and you see Innovate UK, and it's very difficult to just go and approach cold call. So I think having that intermediary might actually help us. So thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Have a nice lunch.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.